Arabella could not really know if she has been loved for her wealth, so she took this bold step. The glass doors of Sterling Crest Towers slid open, and every head in the lobby turned. A young woman in blue janitor coveralls walked in with a mop bucket rolling behind her. Her hair was tucked under a plain scarf, her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. She looked like someone who cleaned floors for a living. Then the head of security froze. He stared at her like he had seen a ghost. Ma'am, he whispered, voice shaking. The woman did not answer him. She pushed the bucket forward, step by step, straight toward the private lift that only one person in the whole company could use. People began to murmur, "That's the CEO's lift. Why is a cleaner going there?" A receptionist stood up fast. "Excuse me, you can't." Before she could finish, the lift doors opened by themselves. As the woman stepped in, her phone buzzed in her pocket. One message. Unknown number. If you enter that lift today, your secret ends, and so will your plan. The doors started to close, and at the very last second, a familiar male voice shouted her name, her real name so loudly that the entire lobby went silent. Arabella Whitmore. The lift doors stopped halfway. Arabella's heart slammed against her ribs, because only a handful of people in Lagos knew that name, and the person calling it was the one man she was starting to trust. Let me take you back. Sterling Crest Holdings was not just another company in Lagos. It was the kind of place people pointed at when they drove past, the kind of building that looked like it belonged in another country. 30 floors of glass and power in Victoria Island. Inside, everyone was chasing something. Promotion, fame, a richer husband, a bigger office, a better life. But at the top of it all was one person nobody ever saw properly. The owner, the billionaire boss, Arabella Whitmore. People talked about her like a story. Some said she was half British, half Nigerian, raised in Ikoyi, educated abroad, sharp like a blade. Others said she was cold and proud, that she never smiled, that she could sack you with one look. The truth was simpler. Arabella was tired. Tired of men who smiled too hard when they heard her name. Tired of men who spoke about love while their eyes counted her money. Tired of feeling like a prize instead of a person. She had tried normal dating. It turned into interviews. What do you do? Became, how much do you make? Where do you stay? Became, is it your house? One man she liked, a lawyer with neat teeth, once held her hand in a restaurant in Lekki and said softly, "If I marry you, my life is settled." That sentence sat in her chest like a stone. That night, Arabella went home, kicked off her heels, stood in front of her mirror, and whispered to herself, "So will anyone love me if I have nothing?" She did not sleep. By morning, she had a plan that sounded crazy even to her. She would pretend to be a janitor in her own company, not for a day, not for a joke, for long enough to see people's real hearts. Her assistant, a steady woman named Mrs. Beatrice Coleman, nearly dropped her tablet when Arabella said it. "Ma'am," Mrs. Coleman said slowly, like she was talking to a child, "you are a billionaire. You can buy a whole street in Ikoyi. Why would you carry a mop?" Arabella's voice was flat. "Because a mop will show me what my money keeps hiding." Mrs. Coleman looked pained. "Your board will not like this." "I am the board," Arabella replied. That was the end of it. Within a week, Arabella became someone else. In the company system, she was now listed as Aria White Cleaning Staff, Night and Early Morning Shift. A simple name, a simple job. She wore plain clothes, no jewelry, no designer bags, no perfume that cost more than rent. She left her black luxury car at home and came in a small ride-hailing car that nobody noticed. Only 3 people knew. Mrs. Coleman, the head of security, Mr. Peter Langford, and the company's old accountant, Mr. Toby Sinclair, who had worked with Arabella's late father and still called her "my child" when nobody was listening. "Be careful," Mr. Sinclair warned her. "People behave well when they think you can reward them. But when they think you are small, they can become wicked." Arabella nodded. "That is exactly what I need to see." On her first morning as Aria, the company did not welcome her. It swallowed her. The cleaning supervisor, a hard woman named Mrs. Moji Briggs, looked her up and down like she was dirt. "You are late," Mrs. Briggs snapped, even though Arabella came early. "I'm sorry," Arabella said, keeping her voice soft. Mrs. Briggs shoved a list into her hand. Start from floor 5. Toilets. Don't miss any corner. If I hear one complaint, you will go. Arabella held the paper, nodded once, and walked away. Floor 5 smelled of air freshener and power. It had offices with frosted glass, people in suits, people who did not look at cleaners. Arabella pushed her trolley quietly, listening more than she spoke, and what she heard in just 2 hours made her stomach twist. A tall woman in a tight skirt, Miss Sienna Hart, stood near the printer, talking to her friend. I heard the CEO is single, Sienna said, smiling like a cat. If I catch her eye, I'll become her favorite. Then my boyfriend can propose. Imagine the kind wedding we will do. Her friend giggled. But she is not marrying a woman. Sienna rolled her eyes. Not her, her money. Don't be slow. Arabella kept wiping a glass table, face blank, but inside her chest, something sank. So many people in her building were not building love. They were building plans. Then a voice cut through the noise. Good morning. Arabella turned. A man stood there, holding a small box. He was not dressed like the others. He wore simple trousers and a clean shirt with rolled sleeves. No loud designer logos. No fake big man walk. He smiled like a normal person. Not hungry. Not greedy. Just polite. I'm Callum Fraser, he said. IT support. We just moved a new server to this floor. The network room is a mess. I brought you gloves. They left nails on the ground. Arabella blinked. Nobody had ever bought her gloves before. She took the box slowly. Thank you. Callum glanced at her name tag. Aria. That's a nice name. Arabella forced a small smile. It's fine. Callum scratched his head, awkward. If you need help moving anything heavy, call me. People pretend cleaners are invisible. But I grew up with my mum working 2 jobs. I know it's not easy. Arabella felt a tightness in her throat she did not expect. Okay, she said softly. When he walked away, Arabella stood still for a moment, holding the gloves like they were something precious. And for the first time in a long time, she felt a tiny, dangerous thought. Maybe, just maybe, days turned into 2 weeks. Arabella learned the company from the ground, not the top. She saw who greeted cleaners and who treated them like dust. She saw who stole office supplies and blamed it on those people downstairs. She saw managers flirt with young interns, then shout at them when the interns did not laugh. She also saw kind things. A junior staff member named Daniel Kingsley, who always dropped biscuits on her trolley and whispered, Auntie Aria, managed this morning. A woman in accounts who once gave her cold water and said, You look tired. But she also saw cruelty. Mrs. Briggs enjoyed shouting at cleaners in front of staff like it was a show, and someone kept making complaints about Aria for things she did not do. Floor 12, said the toilet smelled. Mrs. Briggs barked. You were there. Arabella swallowed. I wasn't assigned. Mrs. Briggs stepped close. Are you calling me a liar? No. Arabella said quickly. Then shut up and work. Arabella did not cry. She did not fight back. She was not there to win. She was there to see. But even she did not expect what happened on the 3rd Friday. She went to the staff kitchen early to replace trash bags. 2 senior managers were inside, talking low, thinking nobody was around. Arabella paused behind the half-open door when she heard Callum's name. One thing about that it boy, a man said, voice sharp. He's too proud. Another voice laughed. He refused Sienna. Can you imagine? Sienna offered him lunch, and he said he's busy. The first man hissed. Sienna is close to the board. If she wants him gone, he will go. Simple. Arabella's stomach turned cold. Then the second voice said the words that made her grip the door handle hard. Let's frame him. Missing laptop. Blame him. By Monday, he's out. Arabella's eyes widened. A laptop frame up? Over someone refusing lunch. She looked down at her mop, then back at the men through the gap. Her breathing slowed. Because she knew something they did not know. If Callum Fraser got hurt in this company, it would not just be unfair. It would ruin the one bright thing she had found since becoming Aria. And as Arabella backed away quietly, her phone buzzed again. A new message. Unknown number. Stop protecting him, or the whole company will see who you really are. Arabella's fingers went numb. because she had told almost nobody. So who was threatening her, and how close were they? That same day, she walked into the lobby with her trolley, mind racing only to hear that voice shout her real name, loud enough for everyone to hear. Arabella Whitmore. She froze. The private lift was half open. Security was staring. Staff were gathering like bees. And Callum, the kind IT man, stood by the reception desk, eyes locked on her, shock and pain mixing on his face like he had just been betrayed. Arabella opened her mouth, but no sound came out, because she could not tell yet if he was calling her name to save her, or to expose her. And just then, Sienna Hart stepped forward, smiling like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. The room did not explode the way Arabella expected. Instead, something worse happened. Silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. All eyes were on her. The mop, the bucket, the blue janitor coveralls, and the name that did not belong there, Arabella Whitmore. Callum stood frozen. His mouth was slightly open, like he wanted to say something, but could not find the words. Sienna Hart's smile widened. Interesting, Sienna said softly, breaking the quiet. Very interesting. Arabella felt her chest tighten, but she forced herself to breathe slowly. She had prepared for this day. Not today exactly, but for the moment her mask would shake. She did not panic. She bent down calmly, adjusted the wheel of her bucket, and spoke in a steady voice. You're mistaken, she said. My name is Aria. A low murmur spread through the lobby. That's the cleaner. She's been here for weeks. I see her every morning. Sienna laughed lightly. Oh, please. You expect us to believe the owner of this company is pushing a mop? Arabella looked up at her. Her eyes were tired, not angry. I expect you to believe what you see, she said. Before anyone could say more, Mr. Peter Langford, the head of security, cleared his throat loudly. There is a mix-up, he said, choosing his words carefully. Miss Whitmore is not in the building today. That was a lie. A necessary one. The crowd hesitated. People always trusted authority when it spoke with confidence. Callum frowned. He looked from Arabella to the security head, confusion written all over his face. He started, then stopped. I'm sorry. I thought, you just look exactly like. It's fine, Arabella said gently. I get that sometimes. She turned her trolley and walked away, slowly, calmly, like someone who had nothing to hide. But inside her chest, her heart was pounding so hard it hurt. That night, Arabella sat alone in her apartment overlooking the lights of Lagos. She did not turn on the TV. She did not check social media. She just sat there, thinking. She had built Sterling Crest Holdings from nothing but an idea and her late father's old notebooks. She had fought banks, investors, and people who smiled while planning to cheat her. She thought she knew people. She was wrong. Pretending to be poor had shown her a Lagos she had forgotten. A Lagos where respect was given based on shoes, not character. A Lagos where cleaners were spoken to like children, or worse, like objects. In the office, she had been interrupted mid-sentence as Aria. Even when she spoke sense. As Arabella, people waited for her to finish talking. As Aria, people talked over her. Once, during lunch break, she sat quietly on a bench outside the building. 2 junior staff walked past. One said loudly, "If I ever end up cleaning floors like that, I'd rather die." They laughed. Arabella stared at her hands that evening for a long time. Those hands had signed millionaire deals. Those same hands had scrubbed toilets that morning. And somehow, the world decided one version mattered more. She went back the next day, still as Aria. Some people were kinder now, unsure of what they had seen in the lobby. Others were worse. Mrs. Briggs was furious. "You like attention," Mrs. Briggs snapped. "Don't think because people were looking at you yesterday, you are special." "I don't," Arabella replied quietly. Mrs. Briggs leaned close. "Remember your place." Those words followed Arabella all morning. Your place. On floor 12, she cleaned quietly while senior staff held a meeting behind glass walls. She could hear them clearly. "We need to cut costs," a man said. "Reduce cleaning staff. They are plenty anyway." A woman replied, "Yes, they complain too much, as if they don't know their jobs are replaceable." Arabella stopped moving. Not one of them knew she paid their salaries. Not one of them thought the cleaners were human beings, with rent, families, dreams. Later that day, she saw something that made her stomach twist. A young cleaner named Rose accidentally knocked over a small trash bin near Sienna Hart's office. Papers scattered. Nothing broke, nothing serious, but Sienna stormed out like the building was on fire. "Are you mad?" Sienna shouted. "Do you know how much this office costs?" "I'm sorry, Ma," Rose said, voice shaking as she knelt to pick the papers. Sienna turned to Mrs. Briggs. "Why do you employ people who cannot think?" Rose's eyes filled with tears. Arabella stepped forward before she could stop herself. "It was an accident," she said calmly. "It can be cleaned." Sienna stared at her like dirt had spoken. "And who asked you?" Sienna said, "Mind your work." Arabella held her gaze. "I am," she replied. That night, Rose cried in the changing room. Arabella sat beside her on the bench. "They will sack me," Rose whispered. "I send money home. My mum is sick." Arabella felt anger rise in her chest, hot, sharp anger. Not because of herself, because of this, because power had made people forget kindness. "You won't lose your job," Arabella said softly. Rose sniffed. "How do you know?" Arabella almost told her. Almost, but she did not. Instead, she squeezed Rose's hand. "Just trust me." Callum began to watch her differently after the lobby incident. He did not bring it up, but his eyes followed her sometimes, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. One afternoon, he found her in the corridor fixing a loose trash bag. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," Arabella said. He hesitated. "Yesterday, when I called that name, I wasn't trying to embarrass you." "I know," she said. "I've seen the CEO before," Callum continued. "On screens. From a distance. You just look exactly like her." Arabella smiled slightly. "A lot of people look alike." Callum nodded, but he did not look convinced. "Aria," he said slowly, "can I ask you something personal?" She paused. "Okay. Do you ever feel invisible here?" he asked. The question hit her harder than any insult. She thought of the meetings she overheard, the laughter, the shouting. "Yes," she said honestly. "Every day." Callum exhaled. "I thought it was just me. Sometimes I feel like if I disappeared, nothing would change." Arabella looked at him, and for the first time since starting her plan, she felt something real and frightening. Connection. But the company was already turning against Callum. By Friday, rumors moved like smoke. A missing laptop, security questions, side looks. Arabella overheard Mrs. Briggs whispering, "They say IT did something stupid." She knew what was coming, and she knew she could stop it with one sentence, one reveal, one truth. But if she did, her experiment would end. She would never again know who loved her without knowing her name. That evening, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Monday. Laptop. He takes the fall. Unless you step out as who you really are. Arabella stared at the message for a long time. Her reflection in the dark screen looked tired, but her eyes were clear, because now, the test was no longer just about love. It was about justice, and as she put the phone down, footsteps echoed behind her in the empty office corridor. Slow, deliberate. She turned, and saw Sienna Hart standing there, arms crossed, a thin smile on her lips. "So," Sienna said, "Aria, or should I say, Arabella, how long do you think you can keep pretending?" Arabella's heart skipped, because Sienna was no longer guessing. She knew. And whatever Sienna planned next would not be small. It would be cruel. And it would force Arabella to choose her secret, or the people she had come to care about. The man arrived without noise. No long line of assistants, no shouting, no proud walk. Yet the moment he stepped into Sterling Crest Towers, something shifted. Arabella noticed it first because she was wiping the glass door near reception. The guards straightened, not out of fear, but respect. "Good morning, sir," one of them said warmly. The man smiled back. "Good morning. Please, how is your family?" The guard blinked, surprised. "They are fine, sir, thank you." Arabella slowly turned to look. The man was tall but gentle in posture. He wore a simple dark suit, neat but not loud. No heavy jewelry, no flashy watch. His shoes were clean, not shouting for attention. His face carried calm, the kind of calm that comes from knowing who you are, not from showing others who you are. "Who is that?" Rose whispered beside Arabella. Arabella shrugged lightly. "I don't know." But as the man walked past, He stopped. Right in front of the cleaner's corner, he looked at Rose. "Good morning," he said kindly. Rose froze. "Gee, good morning, sir." Then he looked at Arabella. "And good morning to you," he said, nodding slightly. "Thank you for keeping this place clean." People forget how important that is. Arabella felt something move in her chest. "Thank you, sir," she replied. The man smiled again and walked toward the lift, not the private one, the normal staff lift. Rose's mouth dropped open. "Did you see that?" Rose whispered. "He greeted us." Arabella nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "He did." Later that morning, Arabella heard his name, Mr. Julian Ashcroft, one of the company's biggest external clients, a man whose contracts alone could keep Sterling Crest comfortable for years. "He owns Ashcroft Logistics," Daniel Kingsley whispered excitedly while dropping biscuits on Arabella's trolley. "They say he started as a delivery boy." Arabella paused. "A delivery boy?" "Yes," Daniel said. "My uncle used to talk about him. They said when he was poor, he didn't beg. When he became rich, he didn't change." Arabella listened carefully, because people like that were rare and real. Mr. Ashcroft moved through the building that day like someone who had time. He spoke to receptionists by name. He thanked the woman who brought him water. When a junior staff member spilled tea near the meeting room, the boy panicked. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm so sorry." Mr. Ashcroft waved his hand gently. "Relax. It's just tea. You didn't break the world." The boy smiled with relief. Arabella watched everything from the corner. She noticed something else. When people were not being watched, they still treated Mr. Ashcroft well, not because of fear, but because he treated them well first. That told her something important. Respect invited respect. In the afternoon, something small but telling happened. Mrs. Briggs stormed into the corridor, angry as usual. "Why is this place still dirty?" she snapped. Arabella looked around. The floor was clean. Before Arabella could speak, Mr. Ashcroft stepped out of the nearby office. "Excuse me," he said calmly. Mrs. Briggs froze. "Yes, sir?" He looked down at the floor, then at Arabella and Rose. "It looks very clean to me," he said. "These women are doing a good job." Mrs. Briggs forced a smile. "Yes, sir. But let's not discourage people who are working hard," Mr. Ashcroft said gently. "It costs nothing to speak kindly." The corridor went quiet. Mrs. Briggs nodded quickly. "Of course, sir." She walked away without another word. Rose's eyes widened. Arabella's hands tightened around her cloth. Someone had defended them, without knowing who she was, without benefit, just because it was right. Later that day, Mr. Ashcroft asked for tea, not from the executive lounge, from the staff kitchen. Arabella happened to be there, changing trash bags when he entered. "Please," he said politely. "May I sit here?" Arabella nodded. "Yes, sir." He sat across from her, careful not to touch her cleaning items. "You work hard," he said casually. "It's my job," Arabella replied. He smiled. "Work is work, but dignity is choice. Some people forget that." Arabella studied his face. "Do you believe money changes people?" she asked before she could stop herself. Mr. Ashcroft thought for a moment. "No," he said slowly. "Money only shows who people already are." The words settled deep inside her. He looked at her more closely. "You're very thoughtful." Arabella looked down. "I watch a lot." "That's good," he said. "The world needs more people who watch and remember." Then he stood. As he walked away, he added softly, "And for what it's worth, you are seen." Arabella felt her throat tighten. That evening, Callum found her near the exit. "Did you meet Mr. Ashcroft?" he asked. "Yes," Arabella replied. "He's different," Callum said. "I once fixed something at his office. He carried his own chair." Arabella smiled faintly, but her mind was already elsewhere, because she had noticed something troubling. During Mr. Ashcroft's visit, Sienna Hart had been watching him closely, too closely, and when Mr. Ashcroft left the building, Arabella overheard Sienna speaking into her phone. "Yes," Sienna said quietly. "He's kind. That's why this will work." Arabella's stomach dropped. "Work how?" She followed at a distance. Sienna stopped near the records room and spoke again. Voice low but sharp. "If the laptop story doesn't stick on IT, we move to the cleaners. One of them. People believe bad things about poor people easily." Arabella's breath caught, because now, the danger had shifted. Callum was no longer the only target. She was, and Rose, and anyone without power. Arabella stepped back into the shadows, heart pounding. She finally understood the full truth of her experiment. Pretending to be poor did not just show her how people treated the less privileged, it showed her how easily the powerless were used as shields for the powerful. And as she looked down the corridor, she saw Mr. Ashcroft returning briefly, as if he had forgotten something. Their eyes met across the space. For one strange moment, Arabella felt like he saw through her disguise, really saw her. Then Sienna's voice cut through again. "Tomorrow," Sienna said, smiling. "Someone will pay." Arabella swallowed, because tomorrow was closer than she thought. And the cost of pretending was about to become very real. Arabella did not fall in love all at once. It happened quietly, in small moments that nobody clapped for. After Sienna's threat, Arabella became more careful. She watched how people spoke, how they blamed, how they lied easily when power backed them. But she also watched Callum, and what she saw stayed with her. Callum did not change. Even when rumors spread about him and the missing laptop, he still greeted the cleaners every morning. Even when people avoided him in the corridor, he still held doors open. One afternoon, Arabella saw him helping an elderly cleaner carry a heavy bag down the stairs. "You don't have to," the woman said. "I know," Callum replied. "But I want to." Those words echoed in Arabella's mind. Not have to, want to. That was the difference. The pressure on Callum grew. Security asked him questions. Managers watched him closely. Arabella saw the fear in his eyes one evening when he sat alone in the staff kitchen, staring at his phone. She entered quietly. "Are you okay?" she asked. He looked up and tried to smile. "I will be. I always am." She sat across from him. "They think I stole something," he said softly. "I didn't. But when people decide who you are, truth becomes small." Arabella felt the weight of his words. She wanted to stand up, to shout, to tell him everything, but she did not. Instead, she said, "I believe you." He looked at her sharply. "You do?" "Yes." "Why?" he asked. Arabella paused. "Because I've watched you. You don't pretend." Callum looked away, eyes tight. "That means more than you know," he said. Their friendship deepened. They ate lunch together sometimes, simple meals, rice from takeaway packs, bread and tea, no fancy restaurants, no pretending. Callum told her about his childhood in Surulere, about his mother, who cleaned offices at night so he could finish school. Arabella listened quietly. She did not talk about her own past. Not yet, but she shared her thoughts. "How do you know when someone loves you for you?" she asked one day. Callum thought carefully. "When they stay kind even when there's nothing to gain," he said. Arabella felt her heart shift, because Callum had been kind to her when he thought she was nothing. No title, no money, no power, just Aria, the janitor. Then something happened that changed everything. On Monday morning, Rose was called into the security office. Arabella followed quietly and stood outside. Voices rose inside. Accusations, blame. Rose came out shaking, tears on her face. "They say I took the laptop," Rose whispered. "I didn't." Arabella's hands clenched. This was the line. She walked straight to Callum. "They're framing Rose," she said. Callum's jaw tightened. "Then they won't stop there." He looked at her carefully. "Aria, whatever happens, promise me something." "What?" "Don't let them break you," he said. In that moment, Arabella knew. This was it. This was love. Not flowers, not promises, but care. Deep, steady care. That evening, as they walked out together, Callum stopped, suddenly. "Aria," he said, voice low, "there's something I need to tell you." She looked at him. "I don't know what's going on with this company," he continued. "But if things get bad, if you lose this job, you can call me. I don't have much, but I won't let you stand alone." Arabella felt tears burn her eyes. No man had ever offered her that. Not protection, but partnership. She nodded. "Thank you." Callum smiled gently. I think I'm falling in love with you." Her heart skipped. She did not answer. She could not. Because love had found her while she was pretending to be poor. And now, she had to decide something harder than pretending. She had to decide if revealing who she truly was would destroy the very love she had been searching for. As they stood there, Sienna watched them from across the lobby, her smile thin and sharp, and Arabella knew true love had finally found her, but keeping it would cost her everything she had built, and the next move would decide who survived this story. Arabella did not sleep that night, not because she was afraid, but because she was clear. For the first time in many years, her heart was calm. She now knew the truth she had been searching for. Love did not announce itself with gifts. It did not rush. It did not calculate. Love stayed. The next morning, Stirling Crest Towers felt tense. Security moved more than usual. Whispers followed Rose and Callum wherever they went. Sienna Hart walked through the building with confidence, like someone who believed the ending was already written. At exactly 10 a.m., an email went out. Mandatory company-wide meeting. Main conference hall. Arabella stood at the back of the hall in her janitor uniform. Mop parked beside her. People filled the seats. Managers, staff, cleaners, security. Sienna sat in the front row, legs crossed, calm. Callum sat near the middle, hands folded tightly. Rose sat beside him, eyes down. Then the doors opened. Mrs. Beatrice Coleman walked in first. Behind her came Mr. Julian Ashcroft. The room stirred. And then Arabella stepped forward. She removed the scarf from her head, straightened her posture, and walked to the front. A quiet gasp spread across the hall. She stopped beside the podium and spoke clearly. "My name is Arabella Whitmore." Silence. "I am the founder and owner of Stirling Crest Holdings." Someone dropped a pen. Faces froze. Sienna's smile cracked. Arabella continued, voice steady. "For weeks, I worked here as a janitor under the name Aria. I cleaned toilets, I emptied bins, I listened, I watched." She turned slowly, letting her eyes meet everyone's. "I wanted to know who people were when they thought power was not watching." Murmurs filled the room. Callum stared at her, shock written across his face. Arabella looked at him briefly, then back to the crowd. "I saw kindness," she said, "and I saw cruelty." She pressed a button. The screen behind her lit up. Audio recordings played. Voices from the kitchen. Plans to frame Callum. Plans to blame cleaners. Faces drained of color. Sienna stood up abruptly. "This is ridiculous." Arabella raised her hand. "Sit down," she said calmly. Sienna sat. Arabella turned to Mr. Ashcroft. "I also saw something else," Arabella said. "People who treated others well without knowing who they were." Mr. Ashcroft nodded quietly. Arabella faced the hall again. Rose did not steal any laptop. Callum did not steal any laptop. She looked directly at Sienna, but some people believed the poor were easy to blame. Security stepped forward. Sienna's voice shook. "You can't do this." Arabella's voice did not rise. "I can," she said. "And I must." Sienna and two managers were escorted out. No shouting, no drama, just truth. After the hall emptied, Callum remained standing. Arabella walked toward him slowly. "I owe you the truth," she said. Callum swallowed. "So, everything was a lie?" "No," Arabella replied softly. "Only my name and my clothes." She met his eyes. "My feelings were real. I stayed because of you, not because of the experiment." Callum was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You were rich the whole time." "Yes, and you still listened to me," he said. "Yes, and when I had nothing to offer, you stayed." "Yes." He breathed out slowly. "Then I guess," he said gently, "I fell in love with the right person. I just didn't know her address." Arabella smiled through tears. Months later, Stirling Crest was different. Cleaners were trained, respected, and promoted. Harassment ended. Kindness became policy, not performance. Arabella did not announce her relationship loudly. She and Callum kept it simple. Walks, talks, understanding. She did not choose him because he knew her secret. She chose him because he loved her before he knew it. And that was the lesson Arabella left behind. True love does not ask who you are before it cares. It cares first. And in a world where many love status, only a few love souls. That is how Arabella found true love. Not at the top, but on the ground, where hearts are honest. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? Do well to let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. Stay blessed.